Welcome, and we're live. Episode 41 now of Agencyphonics, and I'm here today with our very special guest, Carrie Rose, who's very kindly given up some time for us for this episode. Welcome, Carrie.
Hello, welcome.
And so before we get into the interview and hear all about your amazing story and especially around your growth journey so far, which has just been incredible, I just want to say thank you to a couple of people as always. So thank you to the team at Cactus and Agencynomics who are working behind the scenes to make everything work, which is I'm truly grateful for. And also to the guys at Wire Hive who really, I wouldn't be doing this podcast today if they hadn't been around behind the scenes again, helping us with our studio. Although we're not in the studio, as you can see, I'm in my house today because of lockdown. And then also just final thank you to the amazing Forecast who, we run Agencyphonics and Nomics as a not-for-profit social enterprise to help the next generation of agencies. It's all done by donating time and effort, and the guys at Forecast have been brilliant. They sponsored us and they help fund a lot of the community that we have, so we're massive fans of them, so thank you to them. And yeah, that's about it. So Carrie, let me just start by giving a brief intro. I mean, you are now officially the CEO of Rise at 7.
Yeah.
And I know that you are a technical SEO and a content agency, and for me that's been like one of the coolest areas of growth in the last 24 months. It's really kind of, I've seen like a lot of brands really moving into this area, so it's really exciting to have you from that space. And I guess the reason you're here today, just to start, is because two things. One, you wrote on a post that someone had written around offering your service based on more of a performance-based area, and I said I'd love to get you on here to talk about that. So we'll cover that later. But I think it's the article that you wrote around sharing your first, I think it was 14 months, which was in November, where you incredibly had hit a turnover of, I think it was around 2 million at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And year two, you were talking about going to 3.5 million in your second year of business, which is just like, I work with some incredibly fast growing businesses, like people that are in that Deloitte Tech Fast 50. I was in the Deloitte Tech Fast 50, and I'm just in awe of those growth numbers. They're not scale up growth, they are hyper growth. There's a massive difference, right? And so you are someone who needs to share any tips and advice today possible to everyone out there who's probably spent 20 years getting to the first million, fast track their growth. So they're the two main areas. So welcome, Carrie.
Thank you. That was a nice intro. I feel all hyped.
I wanted to play Bitter Sweet Symphony by The Verve, as I know it's your tune.
Yeah.
But I think that was one step too far working remotely. If I'd had the studio, I think rights management probably would have ended up sending me a bill in, probably more than he had to pay for stealing that little riff in that song anyway in the first place. But I'd love you to just share with everyone. I really want to get everyone who doesn't know you. I mean, I think you've probably been living under a rock if they haven't come across you in the past year or so, certainly. But I'd love you to maybe just give us a bit of a background on, you obviously went to Leeds Uni. Yeah. Are you 27 still now? Are you...
27, yeah.
27. So can you give a bit of background about, because you didn't really come out of uni and start an agency, a business, which a lot of people are doing these days. I was interested to know, do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing as well? Like the fact that you had some experience before, but could you just sort of share that first part of your story from leaving uni to go into, I guess, ending up on The Apprentice, sorry.
Yeah, of course.
Nearly got you on Dragon's Den then, sorry.
I know, mate, hopefully one day I'll be sat in the seat.
I'm sure you will be.
So I graduated from University of Leeds in 2014. I went straight into an agency in Leeds called Sticky Eyes. They're a digital marketing agency. To be honest, there was a big part of the what do you call it, like careers fairs at our uni. So they had a big presence, and it was one of those agencies that everyone wanted to work at. And luckily I bagged myself a position as a grad, and I was there and I was doing PR for the likes of MTV and GHD and I was only 21. I didn't even know what PR or SEO meant. I had no idea. 2 months later I got made redundant. So that's where my thick skin started. And then I went and I'd heard of Branded 3. So Branded 3 was an agency that was specifically leading from a search point of view. And I'd heard about them and I thought they're another agency that if I were, if anything goes wrong, I'd go work for them. So I just tweeted the comms director. I said, I want in, I've just been made redundant. We should chat. And yeah, she got me in, and luckily through those 2-month period, I delivered some insane results. So got a job on the spot, and I grew from there. So I spent all my career basically at Branded 3, which ended up getting bought out by another agency called Edit. So if I ever mention Branded 3 and Edit, it's the same company that just got bought out. And yeah, grew myself up to senior campaign strategist. I was running campaigns for some of our biggest accounts. I was winning awards. I was looking after most of the execution of delivering results. And I was doing some freelance on the side. And long story short, I knew I was good at what I did. And, I just learned as much as possible, asked a lot of questions, threw myself into scenarios. And there was a moment of madness where everyone was like, Carrie, we need to get you on TV. And I was like, okay. So it was all like, which one shall I go on? Like Big Brother, and I've always wanted to own my own business, but I've never known what. I've never really known whether, I should go down the agency route. I've had brands like eyelash brands that I've wanted to launch before. My mind is 100 miles an hour. I've had 1,000,001 ideas in the past. So I was like, okay, apprentice seems like my thing, but I need to really nail down what I want to do. So I applied for the apprentice, got through to an audition. Long story short, made it to the finals. So there was the final 30, 16 get on the show. So it was I was there and I met, the financial partner of Lord Sugar. Went through the whole process, and very, very long story short, I didn't get on, but I presented my business plan and they basically said it was too perfect. They said, you've nailed exactly what you want to do, the market, the strategy, what makes you different. And in 2 weeks, somebody else basically offered me some private investment. And at that time, so I was, oh my God, don't know what to do. I was a bit lost, never done this before, never even ran a company in my life. And I contacted the director at Branded 3/Edit called Stephen Camwright. And I said, would you come with me? At first he declined, but then he said yes. So that's the story of going through that, I guess. But one question you asked me then was it good that I went through that and worked at an agency rather than, going straight into running one myself? Yes. When I worked at Branded 3, they threw me into scenarios that I've never, ever experienced before. I was 21 and I pitched to go, I think it was confused.com, and it was a £500,000 deal. At 21, didn't even know what SEO was. And I'm a blagger. That's what I'm very good at, or was very good at. And now I know my stuff, but I was very good at winging it and, learning and just making it up, I guess, on the spot. And I learned to do that. And then I learned the tricks of the trade. And then I knew, how to actually do the job. And I ended up winning awards because of the results. So yeah, I think that experience at Branded 3 really threw me in the deep end, but that's what's got me, I think, where I am today. That's self-belief and confidence, really.
Yeah, I'm always amazed. I'm actually in awe of anyone that leaves school or uni and starts a business. Like I was 27 when I started my agency, and I actually left school at 16. So I'd worked for 11 years, and I learned so much working for other people. I also learned what I wouldn't do when I ran my own business. Yeah. Cause you so I think, a lot of people see it as a negative getting some kind of career under your belt, but I think it can really help you. I always knew, like you, that I would be an entrepreneur one day, but I just need to get the timing right. I need to get the idea right. And so I think it's an important message to everyone out there that there is no, you don't have to leave straight away and do it. You can go and learn and, and develop. And as you said, yeah, okay, you had to sometimes be thrown in the deep end and go through things, but actually, it's good to help you think on your feet, and also it gives you I get better now, the confidence to not procrastinate and overthink when you've got to make decisions. You'll throw yourself in, I'm guessing.
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest learning I took away from all of that is if you met me when I was 21, I was that cocky girl. I throw me into anything, I could have done it. That's how I felt. I thought I didn't need anyone. I can run a campaign or an agency from start to end. I don't need anyone. That's what I used to be like. But when you work at an agency and you're running big campaigns, you realize what you're shit at. you realize, you know, what people you need to help you, project managers, account managers, finance, people to roll out processes, you know, disciplinary. I've realized the things I'm really bad at. And I think that's the difference of 6 years or 5 years in the industry. I've realized what I'm good at for sure, and then really what I need help in. So then you can fill those gaps.
And that's why you've been quite smart then when you started it with Ken Wright, because I always like to draw a circle and say there needs to be someone on the outside and someone on the inside. And he's the inside guy for you, right?
Yeah, for sure. We literally
You're
fit
a great team. Yeah. And that's great to hear. And I think that's good because so many people who start agencies, and I don't know if you know this, but about 50% of people, every single time I do this survey, it's always the same results or poll. 50% of people who own an agency, they either have never worked in an agency before, or they have. Like, it's literally split down the middle.
That's mad.
I know. Can you imagine? So people start, but they start because they are maybe sometimes, you know, creatives or engineers or entrepreneurs, could be entrepreneurs, and they just see an idea. But I think a lot of people who run agencies aren't necessarily kind of the strategists or the client or the salespeople. They tend to be more creatives or engineers, or, you know, your case, you've got, you know, marketeers and stuff. And so it's important to understand those two roles. But I love that you've identified that quite quickly. And I know we spoke just before we started about the fact you do personality tests now. And I guess you knowing the different personalities, that's probably helped you take that approach. Yeah.
Yeah, massively. I guess the way that we do it is we find the gaps in the business and fill them. When I was starting this business, I could have easily have hired my best mate. So my best mate is now my PR director. So he's a director in the company. And I could have easily just started it with him. He's my best friend, but we are pretty much the same person. And I knew if I started it with him, he couldn't do the things I couldn't. And I couldn't, so I needed someone to be able to do the things that I couldn't, because I knew, or in my heart, I knew that this was going to grow faster. I had a gut feeling. And I thought, you know, we're going to face some challenges and problems that I don't know the answers. So I need to find someone that does. So I think that was probably the best decision I made, 100%. Yeah.
I love that. And I know that the other thing that I'd like to say about the early stage you starting up, I was watching some of your YouTube videos, and actually even in the early stages of the business, even you look like you were quite happy to go and, or your tenacity comes through. You're very tenacious. You'll find a way through. But I know we both share a mutual friend in Ash Jones, but you found Stephen Bartlett and Dom, and you got to ask them because you recognize your fast growth. You knew they'd been on a similar path, albeit different services. But I love the way that you reached out to them, and you're looking for people who've trodden your path almost to warn you of the pitfalls ahead.
Yeah, I've done that quite a few times. So it was actually my third day of running Rise at 7. I went down to London on a train and met the guys at Go Agency. Do you know those guys?
Yeah.
I was new to the industry, like just launched a business, and I don't know if they took me serious that day, but I remember kind of knocking on the door, went in, and it was a red hot day. I remember sweating like mad. But there was I basically just said, I'm about to do this. This is my plan. And they obviously just kind of gave me the normal chat of, you know, what to focus on, what's not important and all that sort of stuff. And then all of a sudden we grew so fast, and they dropped into my DMs like, Jesus, you proved yourself. And I was like, yeah. And then I did that over and over. I just got as much advice. I've been picking the brains of Dan from Brain Labs and a few others, really, because I know that I'm on my own path. I'm not copying anyone. I'm doing my own thing. But
that's interesting you say that, because if you ever look at the reviews on our book Agencynomics, Dan wrote the first review. And I remember Dan, when he first started, he came to every single talk I did. He'll tell you, he would come to every dinner I hosted. And I remember, and I have shared this story before, so sorry for a bit, but actually one day was really lovely. He rang me up and he said, Spencer, I need your advice. And I was like, you're asking me for advice? You've just grown this 400-person agency in 2 and I should be asking you for advice. And it's a great moment. But I've got a lot of time for him and for Daniel Gilbert. And I think it's again, that's a really great to hear you say that you've reached out to those people, because, you know, they have been there before. They can share the lessons. And, you know, I know there's a lot of spin in this industry, but I do think a lot of the frenemies, as I like to call them, our competitors who are friends, I think when push comes to shove, they'll always give you good, honest advice. And, you know, and it's not always telling you what, I know you wrote this article no longer about, you know, things that people had told you couldn't do. And you've kind of, you know, actually I read through the list and I thought, I bet there's something on there that I would tell you not to do. And it was, everything on there was nonsense. So I think you obviously called it right. But I guess, so let's get on to the beginning. So you started this business. How did you, in your head, did you see how big you wanted it to become? Like where was the inspiration or the vision, or was it just, let's just get started? How did it all begin?
Do you know what? It's interesting you asking me that, because if you ask Ken, right, he's got a completely different side of this. Whereas for me, I had a dream, but I was quite realistic and thought, probably my first client will be Tim's Tiles. Like I was realistic in thinking like, okay, it's going to be hard. I'm not stupid. And I knew that, I'm not going to win a global brand from day one. That's never going to happen. So I think I set my expectations low, which was good. But I also had this dream, and I knew in my gut that I could achieve whatever I wanted. But I also knew it felt like I hit the right time. It felt like even Brexit, COVID happening, loads of agencies got bought out, like J-Wing bought Epiphany, Sticky Eyes, like loads of things was happening, and Verve. It felt like we just went at the right time. So yeah, I had that behind me. I think I had that like, go grab it as fast as possible. So that's what we did. And I think it was such a fast turnaround from making the decision of starting to actually launching. It was around 3 to 4 weeks. So we did not wait around. We just went, right, me and Ken sat in my living room with pieces, building the website, and just worked it out as fast as possible. So I think that just courage to just go and do it was helpful. We didn't overthink it. We didn't plan the processes and write, HR documents. We didn't have any of that. We just went straight in. Basically.
Yeah, and I think that so did you but in your head, did you see how many staff or any revenue? Did you ever in your head see, right, I'm going to have this? Did you global, or did you?
No, I wouldn't say so. I would say it was a lot smaller. My vision was a lot smaller than it is. I knew I would get there one day, but I did not imagine this fast. So basically on paper, I wrote down that in year 1 I'll have 6 staff, and I'll probably turn over about realistically 300 grand, 600 grand push. That's kind of what I set myself.
Yeah, which sounds
really, yeah. I know, like there's a stat like 90% of startups don't even pass their first year. So yeah, we beat the odds in that one, I guess, at first. But yeah, I did not have that big. I had the dream, but not really the vision, because I was realistic with what was going on in the world. But yeah, I definitely.
And has that changed now? Like now, do you have a new ambition? Has it?
Yeah, I feel like I can take on the world. I honestly do. I feel like there's 1,000,001 things that have gone right. And I just know that we have something so unique. We have the people right, the culture, the marketing, the message, the brand. Yeah. I feel like we've got so many things right. And that's the hard thing, because, you usually get 3 things right and 10 things wrong, but it's like we've got 10 things right and 1 thing wrong. So admittedly, we have got things wrong, which we'll probably come to. But yeah, I know that we are on a massive path, and my dream now is becoming a reality. So.
And by the way, I think every time I speak to, other agency owners and business owners, what you're describing to me is almost like a state of flow where things just seem to go your way. I remember there was a year for me where I think we'd won 7 pitches in a row back to back. And I remember thinking, we're invincible right now. And actually I knew that we were in the right place, the right time, the right service, the right people. And it feels like, and yeah, things still go wrong, but on the whole, they're going right. And that feels to me like you're definitely, as you said, you're in that right place at the right time right now.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and we're riding it. So like there was a moment where it got a bit too, like everything was going too perfect. And when you think that could ruin us, like if we just win every pitch we go to, which we was, and I couldn't believe it could ruin us. Like we have to hire as fast as possible. And yeah, there was a moment where I got a bit scared of like things going too well. And in the end, basically Ken Wright said, what we have is momentum. And any agency that would throw that away is stupid. You ride it, Carrie. You just grab hold of it. And I was like, right, back on it. So it is a mental game. The people that are mentally the strongest are the ones that win. And at that moment in time, I had a slight bit of weakness, and then I just turned it back round again. So yeah, I think that's another benefit of me and Ken Wright working together. But yeah, it's like everything's going right. However, I am very aware that things will start going wrong. So I'm using it. I'm using whatever this is right now.
And listen, you're thinking beyond your years there with that approach, because you are right. It is sometimes the complacency and the overconfidence that kicks you, like you think you're going to win this big deal and you know you're going to win it, and then suddenly you lose it and you don't know why. And so I think, I think most of us oldies like me, we learn in the end to hold a bit back and go, yeah, we might win it, we'll see what happens. And actually, in a way, we kind of, the I don't know how I describe it. It's almost like, you don't kind of predict the be overconfident to a point where something starts going wrong. But it strikes me that you're being a bit, you're having humility about stuff. You're not necessarily taking it all for granted. And I think if you keep that approach, and wise words from Ken Wright. I mean, building momentum in such a short period, it normally takes a good few years to get that momentum. And I think one of the secrets to that, and it really was the thing that you highlighted in the article you wrote in November, and check out Carrie's LinkedIn page and read that article, because it is really good. And I think the advice you give for someone who's not been in the business forever is so strong. And about 4 years ago, I was in South by Southwest and I saw Vaynerchuk and Casey Neistat and everyone speaking out there, and I saw this kind of more, what I could say, more business to business type influencer appearing, opposed to maybe the consumer-led influencer. And obviously Vaynerchuk started an agency, VaynerMedia is an agency, and he was the first person that I saw that was literally videoing on his vlog conversations with prospects and clients. I mean, I would never have dreamt 10 years ago to have recorded a conversation with a pitch or a prospect, recorded it, bleeped out maybe their name at the beginning, and just stuck it on social media. And then when Mr. Bartlett turned up, and he had the UK vibe initially similar, but again younger, and just again working in a space that was really, really hot stuff. And and obviously the story from Ash is very clear. You can see that Ash spent a year trying to do marketing and got no business in, and Steve went out and basically built his personal brand and just became famous overnight. And you've done that very similar. Your story, I'd love to hear a bit about that story. When did that epiphany come to you in the early days that suddenly that was important?
You know what? It was the story of Social Chain kind of caught my attention when I was at Branded 3, and I was like 21 myself. So Stephen Bartlett he's my same age as me. So I guess you see these stories of people that same age, and there's me working, 22 grand or whatever I was as a PR exec, and he was there running Social Chain at 21. And I saw the direct kind of comparison as his progression versus mine, and personal branding was a big part of that, and obviously for him, and it started to show at Branded 3 as well. So Stephen Kenwright, who I co-founded Rise at 7 with, he stood on stage a lot and spoke in Vegas. He spoke at LA, you name it, all around the world, talking about SEO. And he's trained Cartoon Network, he's trained large brands of what to do, and he built his personal brand. So I kind of knew that if I was going to make it one day, I need to build up me. I need to build up what Carrie Rose has to say, because especially in agencies, it's people. You buy from people. There's nothing else. It's not like a fancy product on a website. You buy from people. So I was like, right, I need to build up me. So I started building my personal brand way before Rise at 7 even started. But that's what made it magical, because the day I launched, everyone wanted to hear what I had to say, because people had seen me about, they knew me. I'd spoke on stage at Brighton SEO. So it was obviously a very kind of bubble. It was an SEO bubble, really. And now I've started to break out of that. But that's really only happened in the last year, because I've got an agency story, a marketing story, a culture story to tell. I'm not just a digital PR anymore, an SEO. So yeah, that personal branding really started way before Rise at 7, but I think that's what really made it special. And
have you spent a bit more time now reshaping and redefining that for the future, or is it just very organic and just flows and changes?
Yeah, I'd say it's organic. So, but we have got a bit more of a strategy now. So what I've really worked out is, what have I got to say? What sort of topics do I want to talk about? It was very clear for me that, when it comes to conversations like women in business, it's not something I want to talk about. I'm not one to kind of, I don't know, get too into that scenario, that story. So I want to celebrate that I'm good no matter what my gender is, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I kind of realize, okay, what is it that I want to talk about as a personal brand? And it's leadership, it's culture, it's people, and this whole kind of like inspirational stuff really, and young people. So I guess the fact I'm 27 and I've hired, 20, the other day I hired a 17-year-old kid, and he can't wait to join, but I love kind of that young element of what we do as well. So I think we've done a strategy for sure of like, what are the conversations that I want to talk about? But most of it is me. It's transparent. Yeah. It's maybe a bit too honest sometimes.
Yeah, but I mean, my favorite business person after you on LinkedIn, sorry, I've got to say that, of course, but I mean it, is Sarah Blakely. Do you know Sarah Blakely from Spanx? Yeah. Like I'm a bloke, but she's my favorite influencer to watch and listen to. She is a masterclass. What she shares, the knowledge, and she does, she has her own things that she does. But, I think it's no matter what gender you are, you've got a lot to share and a lot to, so I think that's great that you'll come up with a strategy to do that now. And it's evolving forwards, and I'm sure it will continue to. So was there a step change moment for you, though? Was there a time when you had to suddenly do that first talk as, at Rise at 7? By the way, why is it Rise at 7? That's probably a really stupid question.
Rise at 7 is a feeling. It's getting up in the morning and loving your job. It's being the first on the scene, the first to make a decision, the first to jump onto a new tech. It's that early morning feeling of, it sounds cheesy, but loving Mondays as much as you love Fridays. It just came from, I used to love Branded Free. So when I used to work there, I was an exec on 22 grand. I loved my job. And that's what ultimately I wanted to create an agency that I would work at. So yeah, that's why it's called Rise at 7. Rise at 7 is a feeling, and that's what we're trying to give to us.
I love that, because there's nothing worse than that Sunday night feeling when you hate your job and you've got to go to work on a Monday and you don't like it. And no one should ever feel like that, right? Like if you feel like that, anyone listening, leave your job and go somewhere where you're excited on a Sunday night or 7 a.m. in the morning. So
don't get up at 7. That's all fugazi. It's not real.
Yeah, exactly. So what was the tip? Have you always been a confident speaker, or have you always been quite happy to stand up and because there is still a lot of imposter syndrome, a lot of fear to overcome for a lot of people when they first start speaking publicly or even writing publicly. Has that always been natural to you?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what's really done me good really over the years, is because when I worked at Branded 3 and I was an exec and I'd never been to a pitch before, they went, right, Carrie, you're going to a pitch for confused.com tomorrow. And I was like, okay. Like nothing fazed me, but that level of confidence that I had, it did them favors. And I was winning every pitch I went to. I won. I had 100% success rate. And they was like, just keep sending her. And I was there like, yeah, I'll go wherever. But that's what did me favors. So yeah, nothing phases me, I don't think. I could stand in front of 10,000 people and not be scared. But yeah, the whole story, I mentioned this on my vlog the other day. The Apprentice, however, that scared me. That's probably my first moment that I actually was shaking.
And by the way, I did listen to that podcast episode, and I have to say, your mum's advice was brilliant. and also the fact that you have a song that you can anchor to that puts you in the zone. And I think it's really important. Like most of us from our childhood have a song that when we hear it is just, in fact, I'll share a really great tip with you, which I've stole from a fellow agency person. Okay. So first of all, just to finish that part off, which is, you love the Verve Bittersweet Symphony. That's your song. And you played that song and that almost created this emotional anchor that got you fired up to then walk in. Right. Yeah. And so do you do that now every time you have a pitch on? Do you use that tune a lot or not enough?
Not enough, only for big moments really. Mostly I'm not that nervous in pitches now. I thrive off them. Like I could do them all day every day, so I feel like that doesn't bother me. But yeah, big moments for sure. And another little tip that I do is I go and stand in the sun for 10 seconds.
All right, nice.
Yeah, I find a little corner and I'll stand in the sun and just soak it in. It sounds silly, but
because I think it makes sense. Yeah, it's those little rituals. Like I know a lot of people take their shoes and socks off and they stand on the floor and they do things like that. But the story I wanted to share with you was actually one of my ex-colleagues at Cactus, and he he used to run an agency, and again was very good at fame, actually very good at very good at winning pitches, and did a fantastic talk on how to win pitches when he worked with us. And he shared a story where he had a big pitch on, and they were coming to his office, and they did the CSI, I call it the CSI background research on the prospect. So they were they knew who the people were coming in. They did all the background checks, and they found that the senior marketing manager, her favorite song was Mr. Brightside by the Killers. So as she walked into their office for the pitch, they put it on the office stereo. So she's walked in and she's gone, I love this song. And of course, she's primed now to love the agency because they're playing her favorite song. I quite like those little hacks sometimes people do. But you talk about pitching quite a lot. And there's a lot of people in agency world, I always find it such a contentious subject, people saying, oh, you shouldn't pitch, you shouldn't do it. I mean, I feel listening to you that you have a really good mindset around pitches. You obviously take a lot of enthusiasm and passionate and drive and stuff in there, and energy and creative ideas clearly as well. But do you have any strong opinions about pitching? Is it, does it bother you, or do you feel the process is something that, it may be a big question for now, but I just wonder, do you resent pitching is my question?
I love pitching, love it. If I could do it all day, well, I do. I think I have had one every day for the last 3 weeks. So it's mad.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not, yeah. Honestly, I spend my days putting pitch deck after pitch deck together. It's insane. But I love it. I love doing that sort of stuff. However, if I'm completely honest, and I don't mind being transparent, there comes a problem where I sell the dream. So I am, super enthusiastic, creative ideas. I care about everyone's business. Even my next door neighbor sews cushions, and I care about her business. Do you know what I mean? And I'm so caring that it becomes a bit of a problem, because if the people that then get put on the account or whatever, I haven't got that level of enthusiasm I have. And bearing in mind, at Rise at 7, we hire enthusiastic people, but I've set a bar, and it's hard for people to kind of hit that and meet that. So it become a bit of a problem because everybody wanted to work with me. And obviously, I've trained them all. So that's one thing I tell everybody. I train every single one of them to work like me, think like me. They all have their own uniqueness. That's why I've hired them. Most of them are better at me than the other things I can't do. And I think you have to be transparent with that and tell the client. So I love pitches, but it has got me in a bit, in the past, in a bit sticky situation when
because it's becomes the Carrie Rose show a little bit. And of course, I was guilty of that, right? People say it's the Spencer Gallagher show, and I had to learn to sell less and say, listen, I can tell you what we're going to do, but these guys do it better. And I, you learn to slightly undersell. Otherwise, you're always over promising, right? And the guys struggle to live up to the expectation you set. But it took me 5-6 years to learn that. It's taken you a year, which is an incredible thing. Now, can I just say, I'm a little bit starstruck. Do you know why? Because there's a guy called Daniel Green who's just written Great to Hear You in Action. Now, I'm just going to share a story with you, Carrie. When I was about 19, Daniel Green, he used to have a company based in Leeds, which is obviously your home area.
Yeah.
And actually, he had a company in Barnsley. I always say Barnsley because that's what they used to say, Barnsley. Yeah. You have to say Barnsley. And he used to have a clothing brand. And when I left school at 16, I worked in clothes shops. So I literally, I left school, I had no qualifications. And Daniel, when I was about 19, he headhunted me. And when you spoke at the beginning about the importance of working for other people, I worked for two great entrepreneurs, and he was one of the best. He was still to this day is one of the best entrepreneurs I've ever seen in action. One day I should do a whole episode just on stories about Daniel Green in his heyday, the way he would, he became GQ's most eligible bachelor. He used to blag TVR cars, he almost in his early days had a really good personal brand himself. Yeah. And but anyway, it's very nice to see his comment there, because actually I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for him, because he was my real inspiration on starting a business. So I'm sorry to just digest that whole live interview with you
afterwards, Daniel.
I'm guessing Daniel. I don't know. I'm sure he said we worked together in South London. It was actually North London. I worked in a fashion. One of the first out-of-town fashion shops for him. But anyway, that's a long time ago. But there we go. So, Carrie, back to your story. So you're now at 50 people in the team. Is that right?
60 now.
Like every time I speak or see you speak, it's gone up by 10.
Yeah.
And you're opening an office in London as well.
Yeah, so I've already got 10 staff in London, but we did have an office, but COVID and all that. Luckily the rent ended when COVID hit, so we don't have an office anymore. But we're looking at getting one. Yeah.
Amazing. And I think, what are your feelings? Because a lot of people are like, it's the end of the office. I know that a lot of my clients that have got really good cultures, they really need that office as a central place. How are you gonna approach the culture and the flexibility and the working? What's your kind of vision for how it will work in the future?
Yeah, for sure. Do you know what? It's really interesting discussion because we've been speaking about this often. We only really hire people that are people. So if you want to sit behind a computer and crack on with your job, work till 5 o'clock, you're probably not for Rise at 7. And we've admitted that. We've admitted, remote working and people that don't really like to spend time with people, you're not for us. We've built that for us. So I spoke to the guys at Social Chain and said, what's your thoughts? They've built the whole agency on culture. And they said the same thing. They've built a social space that has, swinging hammocks and slides and all that sort of stuff. And we're doing the exact same. So currently we have an office that fits about 40 staff and we're knocking through. So I think it'll maybe fit about 100 altogether when we knock through. So that's happening in the next couple of weeks. And we're fitting everything from like a bit of like a cinema corner with like big PlayStation things and all that sort of stuff. But we're creating what I would like to call as a half workspace, half social space. So previously we had, banks of desks to fit staff on, but we're getting rid of that. And we go, if you want to work from home, you can. If you want to come in, you can. So mostly, we did a bit of a survey and asked our staff, what is it that you want? And they said the same, 2 days or 1 day working from home and we'll come into the office. And, if we have photo shoots, if we have brainstorms, it's more creative then. So I think the office is, number one, a big part of your culture. And number two, a big part of your brand. And I actually said that having an office in 2021 or 2022 is going to be a competitive advantage for us, because I know so many agencies that have closed it down and they're losing their staff. So I'm like, because they want to be around people, they want to celebrate wins together, they want to have social life, and they might still be able to do that, but it's not the same. It's not the same for young brands.
And there's a couple of things there. The first thing is I have a split with the clients I work with, because the ones that have teams, typically I would say under 35, they all want the office. They want the social interaction. But the ones where it's slightly older, actually they've got families. They want the flexibility. They want to be working at home. And I think the reality is you have a young team, and also, I mean, it's so clever what you're doing, by the way, because the two things really. I mean, the first thing is growing a business fast. You need sales, right? And so you're out there pitching and you're selling and you're winning some incredible business, right? And your mindset is great for that. But when you're in the business, you've then got to deliver it all. So you've got to find people. And I think a lot of people miss that having a personal brand is just as much about recruitment as it is about sales. Yeah. And it's about talent attraction. Yeah. Have you found that to be the case so far? Yeah.
So I did a video on this one. At the beginning, in the first year, we got 200 CVs a week. We had the choice of what we wanted. And that made my life so much easier, because so we've hired someone every week in the last eight months. So the fact that we had that pool of people wanting to work for us, we had the choice, and not many agencies have that, and we've saved thousands on recruiters, thousands on ads on, Indeed and all that sort of stuff. We don't have to pay any of that. So it's made it much easier from a recruitment point of view, but also the sales. We haven't got a sales team. Every client that comes to that we work with came to us. So we know one day we're going to have recruiters. We're going to have sales team. But we're saving thousands on that right now, just by building our brand for free on social media. So
you're right. If you can create an office space that is more like a second home, that that you can work and you can chill out and you get that balance right. I mean, then the two things are going to happen, and you probably already saw this in your first office, but clients will come in and they will go, I want to work here myself. Yeah. So I'm going to choose you so I can come here for my meetings. That's the first thing. Yeah. And the second thing is you'll definitely win business, because we used to have a qualification score for new business, and we added, will the client come to our office because to the qualification, because if they did, 9 times out of 10 we'd win the deal, because they'd walk in, they'd see a great, fantastic space. And that's, so I think not only will you attract great team people who want to work there, because why would you want to work at someone where you're going to be potentially in a, you know, small boxy office that's not very inspiring, versus having slides or whatever else you've got going on.
Yeah, I was saying, when we get a slide, I always wondered whether slides actually get used. But yeah, one thing,
to up your insurance in case there's accidents.
Yeah. One thing that I said is
safety won't like it.
No. I remember the moment when one of our first clients came in when we opened the office, and the first thing they did is they took a selfie in front of the Rise at 7 logo and they tagged their location on Instagram. That became a thing. So we have these 2 chairs that myself and Ken Wright sat in when we launched the business and did a photo shoot in, and it went on the Prolific North. And those 2 chairs have become a bit of a symbol for kind of, you know, the story of Rise. So people sit in them and take selfies. That's free marketing. You know, like I'm talking CMOs are coming to our company and taking selfies and tagging their location. That is free. Like, people don't realize that.
I would love you to come and do my job for a week. And deal with the amount of questions I get around, you know, marketing for their agency, and what should they be investing in marketing automation when they're just not even doing the basic stuff. As you rightly said, people buy people first. In a service business, it's chemistry, right? That's why we have chemistry and creds in pitches, because do I like you? Do I trust you? Do I believe you're going to do a good job for me? And then can you show me who else you've done it for, just so I get the peace of mind that you've actually can deliver it? And then I'm going to work with you. But, you know, just saying to someone, hey, you know, marketing automation advert after advert, it will work with products, but with service, there's still a human element, and people just want to hide from that. And you're not doing that. And the results because of it are amazing, right? So it's great that you get that so soon. So are you okay to come and do my job for a week when you get a bit quieter, if you ever get quieter, and just put people straight on building their personal brand? It would really help.
I'm up for that. I actually quite enjoy that sort of stuff. The only thing is, I get so many messages, you won't believe it, on LinkedIn, and I'm like, it spread. Because like you want to help everyone, but I'm like, I can't. I've got so much things to do, and so if I'm ever ignorant, I will get back to you. I'll try.
Well, when you write, I mean, I never really had a problem. You know, I could deal with it, but when you write a book, or as you've done, you elevate up another level on social, then it just becomes really, really difficult, because I'm trying to rewrite the update for the book at the moment, because a few things have changed because of COVID, and it's just impossible with people trying to get meetings with you every single hour of the day. So, but what instinctively you're doing is you're trying to pay it forward. You're trying to help others, and I think that's, you know, that in the end you just have to find a way to help the most needy, or the help the people that you can the most, because you can't help, unfortunately. It does get too hard to help everybody, but it's the right mindset. And I think paying it forward in agencies once you have success, I think, is a given. I think those people, like the guys at Go and Stephen that gave you the stuff, you have to pay it forward. You have to help the next up and coming people. I think it's the right thing to do. It's probably why I do what I do today, because I had a mate down the road who had an agency who was a lot bigger. And I used to go to him and say, what's going to happen next? And he would say, this is going to happen next. And I would say, really? We've never, ever had this happen before. Go back. And he would get it right every single time. And, you know, over the years, on name checking, Graham Darracott, I mean, he must have predicted about 4 or 5 things ahead of it happening to me. So, you know, I think it's important that you do pay it forward and pass that on. So you're internationally, what are your ambitions? You won a global account as well.
We have, I think off the top of my head, we have 12 now in the US. So US is naturally just happening.
I love it. You don't even know how many people you've got in the US. That's brilliant.
It's just happening. So we are getting an office there in the next year. We're still, what we're going through at the minute, which I know I'm vlogging on YouTube, is the experience of going out to the US. It's hard. And do you know what? It's completely different. So I'm vlogging that experience because I think other people will learn from it. But going to the US, there's a lot of legal, law, you know, tax. There's so many things that are different. And even just marketing, the market, really, it's just completely different. So that's it. That's coming up in the next year.
Amazing. So well, look, I wish you all the best with that. And will you go New York or East Coast or West Coast? You know,
East Coast. It's looking. So the focus probably going for like Miami, Florida, or Chicago. Austin is one as well that keeps coming up.
Yeah, Austin's great.
I've spoke to so many people who just say, don't do New York.
Yeah.
Like
New York is really tough. I've seen a lot of agencies go there and fail, and I've helped a couple go there. But Austin, because Daniel Brainlabs, he went to Austin, didn't he? I think. Yeah. South by Southwest got cancelled last year and this year because of it. But South by Southwest is a great place to be at as well. Yeah. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Austin. Miami's a bit mental. It's like Vegas, isn't it? By the sea. It's like,
yeah,
maybe.
What we've learned, especially in the UK, is the hardest thing is hiring. So you need talent, and what we're focusing on is where we know people. So where we know that good people exist, and they seem a lot of them in Chicago. So Chicago is a high choice on the list. It's not as expensive. There's a lot of, we actually have 4 clients currently in Chicago, a HQ there, and there's so many brands there. So it could be an option. So yeah, that's probably.
So if you had to sum up, the secret sauce of Rise at 7 so far, how would you sum it up? It's been what's been the at the heart of all the success you've achieved?
I think number one, we've been brave to do things other people haven't. And that's even down to, when you said then about Gary Vee kind of like recording a pitch. One thing that we do is we shout about our work, and a lot of people get scared to do that. They have NDAs or anything like that, but we straight up say to clients, like, we're going to shout about you. And they're like, yeah, they want us to. So, and if they don't, they'll put it in the contract, but we've only got like 2 or 3 brands that want that. So we was brave, I guess, to do a lot of that. So we shout about how good we are, quite in a cocky way, but what we've done then is like kind of gave back and created communities where we're teaching everybody how we do what we do. So we train people for free. We do a lot of charity work. I've got a Twitter community where I share tips and advice every day. So I have people running that, giving like how to do this, how to do that. So yeah, I guess brave and confidence is a big one. Myself and Kenright being the complete 2 opposite people is definitely a secret sauce. And a third one is something that actually I've only really clicked on of like, oh yeah, I didn't quite realize we did that, but we did, is employee influencers. So we have 7 people in the agency right now that are constantly like doing something.
Can you share the story, the ASOS story? Because I think that's a really great example of your approach.
Sure. So there's a girl called Thea. She went viral last year on Twitter. She's just, I think she was like 20 years old, something like that. She was going viral because some dickhead on Tinder was taking the mick out of what she was wearing. She was wearing this beautiful, she looked stunning to be fair. And she was wearing this beautiful dress. It was from ASOS, but he basically sent her a message saying she looks awful. She obviously screenshotted it and tweeted it like, not very nice guy. Like, why would he say that? And it was spreading. He got like over 100,000 likes. And what happened was ASOS saw her tweet that was going viral, and because she was wearing a ASOS dress, they basically took her image and put it on their website and made her the model. So she was the model on ASOS's website. So again, what happened was, so at the time, I just launched Rise at 7, and I had alerts set up for every single brand that I kind of looked to for inspiration. So literally ASOS or PLT could fart and I'd know about it basically. And what happened was they obviously did that, and I got an alert. I shared it on social like, oh my God, ASOS has done this with this girl called Thea. And I started going viral. So I got 140,000 likes. And what happened was me and Thea connected and was like, oh my God, that's hilarious. Like, did ASOS get in touch with you? They were like, yeah, they ended up sending her like loads of gifts and presents and all that sort of stuff, like to say thank you and being part of this campaign for them. And it was their most successful PR stunt of the year. And what happened was I said, where are you from? And she lives around the corner from me. And I was like, that's mad. I was like, what are you doing right now? She's like, I'm studying marketing. I was like, when did you graduate? She's like, in like 2 months time. I went, do you want a job? So what I did then is I offered her a job. And then that was my ammo really for going and knocking on ASOS, Misguided, PLT's door, and I did that and won. I won Misguided in 2 weeks.
Wow.
So that
and the talk about making your own luck there, as well. Like the fact is, if you don't reach out and you have the little coincidences that happen, like they happen to live around the corner, and it probably felt like the stars aligned on that one completely. But I think you're putting that energy out there and you're doing these things, and that's why it's going your way. But that's a great story. Great story.
we did that we've got 5 people like that now. So if anybody knows a guy called Mark, he's the billboard guy. So the guy that did the Date Mark billboard in Manchester, I hired him as well. So he then run big campaigns for us. And what makes it different is when I walk into a pitch and I've got Thea on this side and Mark on this side, and we're going and presenting, they're like, "Are you the ASOS girl? Are you the bill?" And they're like, "Yeah." And it immediately makes us
people the other thing is I think people don't realize often that celebrity culture works really well when you're selling, consumer products, because I learned this in Daniel Priestley's book Key Person of Influence. He said that if you see someone on TV, or like if I've watched 7 hours of your content, I feel like I know you, right? Because after 7 hours, I feel like I've heard enough stories about you to know you personally, and I've not met you, but actually, I noticed a couple of my Andy Murray was one of my first clients, tennis player, and actually when you have famous people who are individual clients, it's amazing how other clients then want to work with you. But if you have them in your team, it's like even celebrity culture works really well, I think, in B2B environments, but not enough people really utilize that as well.
Yeah.
But what a great what a great story, and you also have some interest. So not only are you finding your team members through creative means, but what creative means are they doing to work with you? So what do people do when they're trying to apply at Rise at 7?
That's mental. So
200 people at a time, they've got to stand out, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that became a bit of a thing. And it's not something that we set. It's not something that we said, right, we're sick of the CVs, like do something different. It just started to happen and become a bit of a thing. So we've been sent everything from cakes and balloons. Someone designed a sneaker, and it was a Rise at 7 branded sneaker, sent it to our office, and they basically said their foot in the door. Someone built a game and it was, honest God, it was the hardest game ever, and I actually played it, and it was this little character, a bit like kind of Mario or whatever, where they jump on the buildings, and you had to jump over this city to get to me. So I was in this city.
Wow, that's incredible.
It was incredible. I was like, these people are creating these things. I've had Vogue magazines that have like them on instead. I've been sent all sorts, products, denim jackets with Rise at 7 on the back. So yeah, the amount of ways that people have got in front of us is insane. And that, do you know what? Social Chain warned us about this, and this is an interesting insight. They said that they got a lot of that too, but what they found is people can, do all these creative things to get in front of you, but then when it comes to doing the job, they weren't that great. However, when our job is to get in front of people, so our job is PR, and if they can initially show that they can get attention, then that is basically doing the job.
Transferable skill, that, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so it really helped from our point of view, but there were a lot of people that have sent us really amazing things that we haven't hired because, we know that sometimes somebody with 10 years experience and a good CV is what we need.
Yeah.
So, I'm not ignorant to that fact, but yeah, standing out has definitely been something interesting in the last year for us.
And so just, you said that I don't want to, I'm going to make sure we end on a much more positive. I don't want to be negative, but you said there's been some challenges. I mean, obviously, making mistakes and challenges is part of growing up and learning. We have to make mistakes to learn lessons. I've got to say to you, sometimes I work with people and they say, "Oh, what do I need to do to make sure this works?" And you know what? Sometimes I go, "Do you know what? I just want to make the mistake actually, and learn it for myself." And that's kind of pretty cool actually. But what are there any sort of big challenges or mistakes, things that you've made that you've learned from that really spring to mind?
Yeah, there's quite a lot.
Quite a lot. Oh, yeah. Don't give me too many.
There's one that I'm going through now, which I think you find interesting, especially when, it's something we're challenged against. Because we grew so fast, the priority was deliver. So, ultimately an agency is there to deliver awesome results. We didn't focus on processes. So we hit 50 staff, and we had some processes in place, but not all. Yeah. And that's when it hit us. So anybody that, especially we're getting new starters in and things, they need it wrote down of, okay, what's the process to do it X, Y, Z? And we didn't have it wrote down because we've done it all, super fast in the last year. So now we're really going through that. We're going through getting those processes in, making sure there's a structure, making sure there's a good management team, all that sort of stuff. And finally it feels like we're getting there. But yeah, that was, I guess, a bit of a problem for us. However, when I spoke to somebody about it recently, and I actually thought to myself, this guy said he knows of somebody that started an agency and they focused so much on process and structure that they didn't actually focus on delivery.
Yeah. So
they built an awesome company that didn't deliver.
Yeah. And this is the thing, right? By the way, in the new book, I just rewrote the sales and marketing chapter, and I actually start with this. I say, in an agency, if you don't have a lead, you don't have a customer, you don't have a service, you don't have a culture, a team, you don't have processes, you don't have profit, you don't have cash, and you got no business, right? That is the reality. Now, all agencies have one of four problems. They're either they haven't got enough sales, they can't find enough people, and you've probably been through both those. Then the next thing is the process, and then the last thing is financing. Because when you grow hyper fast, you have to be clever and much more. That's why platforms, even the Robin Hood trading example, they just raised 2 billion. That's why Facebook raised money, because to scale hyper fast, you're going to need it, because you have to be able to, because people are your biggest overhead in the business, and so you've got to pay them up front, and the clients don't pay every time up front. They can do, but you're so right. And by the way, that thing that you've already realized, it takes so many agency owners so many years to figure that out. And I can't tell you, the fact that you've got it is a major thing of why you're doing so well. And the reality is, you'll fix the processes and you'll do it in your own unique way, and it'll be brilliant. And then in another couple of million turnover, they'll break again, and you'll have to refix them. And then the sales will dry up. And then the people, for some reason, they'll stop coming to you because someone else has opened a cool office next door. No, I'm joking. And then there's always one of those four things. There always is. And, and I think the reality is, that's business, but it's how you deal with it when it happens. And it sounds like you've been grown up, and obviously there's some great platforms out there for managing the one thing, by the way, I will share to you, which is the biggest shock for me with SEO businesses and a content, is the lack of, because a lot of them come from PR background. So like sticky, so you mentioned sticky eyes. I remember Catherine O'Toole's original founder. So when I had my agency, we were both in the Deloitte Tech Fast 50 growth. So she grew very quickly, back at the end of the sort of the noughties, as we call it. And basically, a lot of the traditional agencies, Carrie, they don't have project managers. They go, we have account managers do project management. I think the secret, I will share the secret with you, is get some proper project managers in. You just have to do that if you probably want to stay ahead and doing it. But because a lot of PR and SEO businesses, they pay back, we don't need them. But actually, if you have them in, it's amazing how much more. Because it's different people, right? So those, you remember the disc thing we talked about earlier on, the high C's are the detail people, right? They're the people that should be running your processes and project management, not people like you and me who've got high eyes, who are out there able to evangelize and get the world excited about stuff. So
100% right. We're actually going through that now. So we're hiring project managers in.
Amazing.
What we've realized is that we kept hiring more and more staff to do the job, but then I was like, well, what if we took those staff off and then you just put it all on project managers, and then
very true.
We don't need to hire there then. So I definitely see, because we don't have account managers. We don't. Okay. So we have
basically, okay. So that's the other thing that we could talk another time, is I think when you start out small, you often, I'm just going to put this out there, and people can shoot me down because there's always exceptions, but often you think it's good for the clients to speak directly to the people. But the problem is people can't be proactive always if they're reacting all the time. So if you can get people who just look after clients reactive, and then account managers get a bit of a bad press at the moment, because generally they can often, be slightly more they're more nurturers. They'll sort of stay behind the computer and make sure everything's working. But actually, if you can free them up to take more ideas into clients, to work through the organizations, once you land the client, to expand in, that's where the secret comes. But if they're doing the work too, it's really hard to do both, isn't it?
We've it's kind of like restructured, where we have digital strategists. So they are basically sat in the middle of the company, and they're 50% rise at 7, 50% client. So they obviously work for us, but mindset is they're working for the client. So they are not KPI'd on, revenue or upselling or anything like that, like an account manager. They're there to make sure we're delivering what the client actually wants, because not going to lie, rise at 7 can go, and we can take you to the moon if you want to, but not everyone wants to go to the moon. So we need a good plan. So digital strategists are basically there to make sure the brief is perfect, make sure the client's happy, it's kind of like an account manager, but they're also the experts.
Yeah.
Something we've changed the way that we think about in, service force of delivery.
But that's all your business partners' problem to deal with anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's good. But look, and you know what? I love the honesty and the candidness of it, and it's a challenge that everyone will recognize. And you're right. At least you're not the business that's built amazing processes and recruited amazing people and then has no sales. Because at the end of the day, the people want to work on exciting. They want people who work in a team. They do want to often work on cool brands, and they want the work to be interesting, exciting. I'm sure people in your team are loving the fact that they can put all those brands on their CVs, and that won't happen in an agency that's not winning new business all the time moving forward. So, Carrie, we have talked for just over an hour now, and that has been just amazing. I think your energy, everything you're doing, the fact you've learning these lessons so fast, your approach. I've seen a couple of people talk about mindset and stuff. I think, I really appreciate you giving up the time today and coming and sharing all that with us. And I wish you all the continued success on the journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was amazing to meet you. And the support has been amazing in the chat.
So we'll speak again soon. And listen, everyone, thank you for tuning in and listening live. We'll be back for another episode very soon. One day, can you see Carrie, the studio? That's the studio on the outside. We have our own studio, but we're not allowed to go there for COVID reasons. But
can I come in some time?
Next time you come on, when you in another sort of 6 to 8 months, when you've hit 10 million, come back and we'll do the follow-up show.
I'll tell you all about that next 6 months.
Well, look, don't change who you are. Love your energy. Everything's, I just think, both you and your business partner, Cameron, have done such an amazing job, and I do wish you all the success. Thanks everyone for listening, and that's a wrap.